Hello? I'm going to do my checks and I'll be with you in a moment. Hold on, please. Got to make sure everything's working properly. Don't want no glitches. Sounds like it's where everything's working. Excellent. Okay, we're good. We're in the house. So, I would like to welcome everyone to Encounters. This is our meeting. This is our meeting for Tuesday. I'm here Tuesdays and Wednesdays, and I always have something very good to talk about today. And on Tuesdays, we talk about a little bit of everything. We talk conspiracies, we talk everything, aliens, whatever. But on the Wednesday show, we talk about the metaphysical. But this is Encounters. And today we have a very exciting show and, well, kind of weird show today. We're talking about the plot to overthrow American democracy. And we're actually talking about this while we're actually making history in the process. History is being made because in Washington, D.C., next week, they're going to start the impeachment trial. And that's going to be a doozy. And that's going to change America for a long time. A very long time. So we're going to talk about some things. But we're going to talk about what all this craziness is about. And as we always do, we like to go back to the beginning. Now, normally we go back to the Anunnaki, the Egyptians, and all this stuff. No, we're not going to. We're talking about the beginning of this country, the United States of America. When the people from England first came here. They always wanted democracy here in America. But democracy have always been about one thing, because when they was founding the colonies back in the beginning, most of the people here was not of European descent. So democracy have always been about eliminating of people and making it where only a certain people could vote. So even though America had thousands of Indians, millions of Indians, hundreds of Indian tribes, most people don't know that Indians wasn't considered citizens of America until 1920. Did you know that? Even though they've been here for thousands of years, they was not considered citizens of this country. That means they could not vote. Okay. So this is why when you killed an Indian, you didn't have to go to court or anything else, because they was not considered, they was just in the way. I guess they was like the Canaanites. You know what I'm saying, don't you? Very bad. Okay. And blacks couldn't vote either. Okay. We was just, blacks was considered, half man, half animal. We was considered a lot of things. The main thing we was considered was free labor. Women couldn't even vote. They had it all locked up the way they wanted. So the only people that could vote, and that's the reason democracy worked, because they controlled who could vote. And democracy is about one thing and one thing only. It's about control by the majority rule. And majority rule is great when you're a part of the majority. But the problem is, in this new America that we're getting into, democracy is changing very rapidly. And this is what a lot of people are afraid about. And this is why a lot of people are upset. And this is why I've been warning you for a long time. We're still heading for civil war in this country, because a lot of people do not like how America has changed. So before we talk about America, and what happened here, we can go all over the world where this same thing have happened, where democracy was wonderful until democracy flipped over. And this is what happened in Serbia, where, a lot of part of Serbia wasn't Serbians, and that country went to war. You had South Africa, where you had one man, one vote, and South Africa people know about apartheid, but people don't know how bad things got in South Africa. We're going to take a diversion for a minute. Do you know South Africa is the only country in the world to ever make nuclear weapons, not to attack another country? South Africa made nuclear weapons in case the blacks took over. They was going to nuke their own country. Okay, because they would rather kill everybody in the country instead of letting blacks take over. You have to really be radical to make nuclear weapons that you're going to blow yourself up in case the blacks take over. That's how bad things got in South Africa. Okay. And they had nuclear weapons to blow up the whole country to keep the blacks from taking over. That's very radical. Okay. But it didn't work. Okay. This is where we're heading. Hopefully we won't plant nuclear bombs to keep certain people from taking over. But there was a book that came out years ago called 2047. That was the year that America was going to become a minority country. Okay. But it didn't take till 2047. We're only up till 2021. And let me tell you something that people been afraid of for a very long time, and that they've been talking about for 10, 20 years, is when Texas turns blue. Okay, because they thought Texas was going to be the first of the southern states to turn because of the high number of blacks here and the high number of Hispanics. They thought Texas was going to be the first of the southern states to turn blue. And they've been talking for years about what they're going to do if Texas turns blue. And we've been trying to turn it blue for a long time. But Texas wasn't the first state to go blue. This is what blew everybody's mind. Georgia went blue. And at first they thought it was just a fluke. Then they had 2 more elections, and it was still blue. And this is why we're heading towards civil war in this country. Because if Georgia can go blue, and why did Georgia go blue? When you look at a map of Georgia, if you look at a map of Texas, if you look at a map of the United States on election night, the entire map is red. How did the Democrats win? If the entire map of the United States is red, because there's blue spots in that red map. And those blue spots are called all the major cities in the United States. And all the major cities across America are blue. Like in Texas. Texas is solid red. But Houston went blue. Dallas went blue. Austin went blue. San Antonio went blue. Every major city in Texas went blue except for Fort Worth was the only city that stayed red. This is the problem across the entire United States. The entire map is solid red. But those blue dots is the cities. And this is why in Michigan, they wanted to void out what they was trying to do in Michigan. They wanted to throw out all the votes from the city of Detroit. They wanted to say that the people of Detroit cheated in the election. They was going to throw out all the votes in the city of Detroit, and that would have made Michigan red, and Trump would have won. If you would have threw out all the votes in Detroit, Michigan, that would have been civil war. Okay. It's the biggest city in Michigan. You can't throw out the cities. But this is the problem that America has now, is that we live in a country which is solid red, but all the cities are solid blue. And why is that? That's what we're going to look at next. Is because in the country, in the country of America, when you look across that map, is solid red, because the red is what they're trying to depict in the country music. This is why you've been hearing for the last several years country music everywhere. They was trying to make country music America's music. You know, love the flag, love small towns, love Jesus, love going to church, love my girlfriend, love this, and they was trying to get rid of the old country about getting drunk and neon, uh, neon moons and all of that and honky tonks but that stuff is coming back now. Ever since the Koch brother died, they was the one that was trying to switch country music into this new type of trying to wrap the flag around country music. And they wanted to get rid of the honky tonk. No more drinking no more songs about getting drunk. No more songs about, drinking beer in your pickup truck. No more songs about living in your trailer. No more songs about, you get what I'm saying, don't you? The new country came out. Okay. But now that the Koch brother has died, country is going back to its roots. Country music have always been about life in the country. The good parts about life in the country and the bad part about being life in the country. Because being a country boy is being a country boy. The good, the bad, and the ugly. It's like living in the city. It's the good, the bad, the ugly. It's not nothing wrong with being in the country. It's nothing bad at being in the city. But country music have always expressed country life. The good parts of country life and the bad parts. And country life have always had a lot of drinking problems, a lot of domestic violence problems, and a lot of this and a lot of that. And that was expressed in the music until it got cleaned up. And then it became the music of the red, white, and the blue. Okay. And in those country, and what people like about country music, and what the Koch brother was trying to do with the country music, is in the country towns, you only have, there's one church, normally. You have, one race. You have one, culture, which is white culture. You have, you have a certain way of doing things. And people that don't fit in, leave. Okay. Because in the country, they have their way of doing things. Okay. They're good old boys. In the city, people are very tolerant because you get used to a lot of things going around you. In the city, you got gays, you got homosexuals, you got transvestites, you got Orientals, you got Buddhists, you got Muslims, you got people talking all kind of languages. I work for a bank, and we got translators in 40 different languages and this and that and everything else, and people's names. You look at some of these names, you just don't know where to start, from the front, back, whatever. Okay. And in the cities, you just do your own thing. You're not forced to do anything. I live in an area, as a lot of people know, I live in the valley. I live like 20 miles away from the Mexican border. I've been living here for 30 years, maybe 32 years, 35 years. I still don't speak Spanish. I still don't eat most of the food here. But nobody's getting upset. Nobody's tying me up. There's no crosses being burnt in my front yard or anything. I just do my own thing. I don't even listen to most Spanish music. How can I live in a place that's 98% Hispanic? And I do my own thing. Because this is what America is about. It's about tolerance. And in the city life, you can do whatever you want to. You can, there's people who live here. The big music here is Mexican music. But a lot of people here listen to rock and roll, whatever. You hear music from all over the world. Okay. And I listen to my music. I listen to a lot of new age and jazz and things like that. But I'm not trying to convert the locals into that. They can keep their music. Okay. I keep mine. Okay. This is what city life is all about. Being very tolerant. And as I tell people, if you don't like your Muslim neighbor, don't marry him. You get what I'm saying? If you don't like your Oriental neighbor, don't marry him. Okay. You get what I'm saying? But this is what city life is. And city life, even though you got people from all over the world, all over United States now, they have these festivals now. I went to several of them, like in San Antonio and Houston and so many places where they have these international festivals. And you get to go places and you get to taste and eat food from all over the world. And people love it, where they can eat Thai food and German food and Polish sausage and Czech food and Nigerian food. And you see people dressed in their garb, and you get what I'm saying? And they're doing their little dance and they're wearing their Holland shoes and whatever. Okay. And they're doing their little K-pop and whatever. And we just love it. And I've been to restaurants where they're eating shish kebabs and all kind of stuff and got belly dancers and doing this and that. And I have been everywhere. Ate food from northern India where the food is more colorful than, I like my food in black and white. I don't like my food being in all different colors. I like my food kind of in black and white. Okay. But it's whatever. This is how America is changing. We are becoming an international country. We are becoming international. But not everyone is celebrating that. Everyone is thinking, some people are thinking that they're losing their country. And we have to fight to keep our country. And this is our last chance. And if we lose America, okay, see, this is the reason why people are taking up guns and taking up arms. Because they're framing it as it's us versus them. It's the country people, There's nothing out there in the country. Everything is one way out there. And in the cities, it's every way. And before, things are a-changing. And in places where you wouldn't believe it's changing, like we said, Georgia turned blue. And the problem with Georgia turning blue, there is no reason why Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana cannot turn blue in the next few years. Because what a lot of people don't know, when you think of those states, you only think about a certain type of people. But in those cities, you have everybody. And if you go to New Orleans or any big city in the South, you can see this is the problem with Atlanta. Atlanta, you got people from all over the world living in Atlanta. You got people from all over the world living in the southern cities, just like you have in the northern cities. And if those people start voting and start getting the chance to vote and not being purged from Purtle Rose and all these little games they've been playing for the last several years, where if you live in a small town, they got 20 voting machines. And if you live in the city, you got to stand in line for 3-4 hours to vote, because they don't want people in the cities to vote because they're the wrong color, wrong this, wrong that, everything else. So they've been playing these little games. Okay. But even playing the games now is getting harder and harder and harder for them to win. So it is now getting to the point, now that Georgia's turning blue, that Texas almost turned blue again. And now that things are changing very rapidly now. Okay. A lot of people believe they don't want this democracy anymore. Democracy was great for 200 years, as long as they had the majority. As long as everything was done their way. But it's not a thing of us versus them. It's a thing of we are a country of immigrants and we have to come together. And this is what the human race have to be. Because as we move further and further into the 21st century, okay, the name, this is what, the EU is all about. In the future, when you tell people, it's just like 500 years ago. Nostradamus was not from France. He lived in, France was split up into little states, and he lived in a little state. Okay, Providence. Germany didn't exist. Every part of Germany was its own little state. If you come into the future 20, 30 years from now, and you tell people, where you live, especially if you're in Europe, Europe is all fusing together as one country. In Asia is fusing together as one country. South America, people are moving around South America like there's no tomorrow. They're crossing from Brazil to Argentina to Chile. They're going everywhere. They're not just staying in one place anymore like they did before, because we have something called travel. We have economics. We have this and we have that. People needs to move. And with commerce, you go where the money goes. And we have to quit being black and white and gray and this and all this stuff. And we slowly need to become human beings. But a lot of times that change may not be a peaceful change, because a lot of people do not want to take America and leave it the way it is. So a lot of people, this is the problem why we're having this conversation now, because a lot of people became very afraid what happened when they stormed the Capitol. Over the next few weeks, things could really get bad. Because these people are fighting for the soul of America. They believe that their country is being taken over. And they're this and they're that and they're... Okay, no, it's not being taken over. The only thing that have changed between now and 50 years ago, when blacks used to live on that side of the railroad tracks and we couldn't be on the other side. And the Hispanics had to live on that side of the, over there, and they couldn't cross that road. And those other people had to stay on, See, today, people live where they want to live. And you think it's bad now. Wait until coronavirus is over. We might have a long wait. We might have several more years. But for right now, even if you want to travel, you can't. But it was getting to the point where people was moving all over the world in record numbers. This is what I told you before Brexit was about. Because the population of England was dramatically changing over the last 10, 20 years. You had so many people from Europe moving to England. And the people of England, especially in those small little towns, didn't like it. Okay. The people of London and the big cities, they didn't have much problems with it. But it's those little tiny towns. They didn't like it. But we have to figure out who's going to control the future. Are we going to let the big cities in America, Los Angeles, New York, LA, San Francisco, Miami, Atlanta, Detroit, all the big cities control the future of this country? Or are we going to let little tiny towns in the middle of nowhere with a population of 15,000 control the future of this country? The future is where the people are. The future is where the population is. The future is where the companies are. The future is the future. And people not only upset about race and because of color and because of language, they're even mad because they want, we have that new president now that's talking crazy about making electric cars and converting everything from gasoline and coal to electric and solar. And the governor of Texas almost declared war. He said, we're not going to just give up our oil. We're going to fight for our oil. We're going to fight for our gold. But that's how Trump got elected. promising the people in, over there in Virginia, in West Virginia, that he was going to reopen all the coal mines. And they believed the lie. They voted for him. But he never reopened the coal mines because the coal mines are dead. You can't go back. The future is that direction. The only thing you can do is decide if you're on the train moving towards the future or not. And countries that does not move forward, this is why England almost lost World War II. Because the world, before World War II, between World War I and World War II, the world switched from coal to oil. England refused to switch. And England had all these big battleships running on coal. They didn't, they were slow. They was, and Germany had all these new little battleships running on running on diesel. And those British ships didn't do too well. Okay. You have to keep up with the latest technology. And we've been fighting technology for a very long time. China had trains going 200 miles an hour 20 years ago. China's now making trains that can go almost 300 miles an hour. The fastest train in America can go 85 miles an hour. Okay. And how come we don't have any high-speed trains in America? Because we're afraid the airline industry will be hurt by putting high-speed trains in America. Okay. It's ridiculous. We have to do what we have to do to stay. If we want to be a world leader in the world, we have to lead. You either lead or you follow. And if you look at the New York City skyline, and if you look at the skyline of LA, and if you look at the skyline of Shanghai, China, or Dubai, or it's not even funny. We're still making buildings like it was 30, 40 years ago. All of our buildings are square and rectangular. Okay. They're making buildings overseas that are round, circular, shaped in weird shapes where they can rotate and all this fancy stuff. Now, if you're an architect and you go into architectural school and you only know how to make square and rectangular buildings, where are you going to get a job? This is why we're losing out on the contracts. Because we are no longer ahead when it comes to technology. We are no longer ahead. Before, people looked at the United States and said, gosh, they got the best buildings, the best highways, the best this, the best that. When you look at highways today, we're still making highways like it was 1979. You should see the highways they're making in China. They're making bridges that are 30 miles, 100 miles long. They're making highways that cut through all kind of stuff. It's mind-boggling, the stuff they're making over there. And if you're an engineer over there, you can go anywhere in the world and get a job. And if you're an American engineer and you only know how to make highways the way we did in 1970, okay, you're losing out. This is why we're falling behind. And the only way that we can try to keep business now, this is why we got to give countries billions of dollars in aid. Because we threaten them, if you don't buy our tractors, we're not going to give you this military aid. And if you don't buy this, we're not going to give you that. And if you don't do, but this game only works so far. Because no one's afraid anymore. And when you want to buy, when you're out to buy tractors, and you're looking at American tractors, and you see these super futuristic tractors coming out of the Middle East and coming out of, China and whatever. America can say, hey, if you don't buy our John Deeres, we're not gonna give you no military aid. We're not gonna do this or that. And you're like scratching your head. Okay, but that decision is getting easier and easier to make every day because the world is getting smaller. And we have to start competing for the future. This is why in America there's so many people out of work. And you should talk to the young people today. A lot of young people, they don't want to go to college and get a 4-year degree and think about, I'm going to go to college, get a 4-year degree, run up $80,000 in student loans, and then I'm going to get me a job and buy me. These kids today, they don't want to go nowhere near college. They want to go to coding camp and all kind of stuff like this. They want to go to technical schools. They don't want to touch those colleges. Because the colleges are so far behind. And when you go to college and you pay all that money, they're not teaching you the cutting edge stuff. This is why a lot of our cutting edge industry, Silicon Valley, Tesla, all these big companies, they live off of hiring Chinese and Indian engineers. Not American engineers. They hire all these foreign engineers. Because these foreign engineers are the ones that can do the heavy lifting. And if you go to any hospital, anywhere, you see all these foreigners there. And you try to make an appointment for a doctor today. Half of these doctors, you can't even pronounce their names. What happened to all the American doctors? We are not keeping up. And we can wave the flag and put flags on the back of your pickup truck and drive around and whatever and say how great we are. But aren't we fooling ourselves by doing this? We used to be great because we could do the work. We need to get back to the point where we are great because we can compete and win against everyone. Okay. We have to get back on target again. Okay. And some industries, we're still ahead. When it comes to rockets, we're still number one. Well, Tesla's rocket blew up again for the second, third, fourth, fifth time today. Who knows? We're losing track of how many things that thing blows up. But they're going to eventually get it off the ground. But remember, remember 10, 20 years ago? When Boeing was so huge, Boeing controlled like 80% of the global airline industry. Boeing is now falling behind Airbus. Airbus is taking over. How did Boeing go from being number one to sliding down to number two? And this is happening in so many industries. We are slipping and sliding. It has nothing to do with who's a patriot, who's this or that, whatever, what church you go to, See, we got to get out of all of this. This is why we are in trouble. So, America is changing. The world is changing. I told you before that no one can see the future. Because when we try to see the future, we can't see it. But this has happened several times before in mankind's history. Because remember, when the oracles went blind through the days of the Romans, they couldn't see because they was trying to see the Roman legions. They didn't know that in the future, there weren't going to be no more Roman legions. In the movie, everybody's favorite movie, Star Wars, Jeddah, that little green monster can't see whatever his name is. He can't see because the world has changed. He's trying to see the Jedi in the Jedi Temple. In the future, there is no Jedi in Jedi Temple. This is why he can't see. People that try to see America in the future can't see. It's not because America's not there. It's the America we know today is not there. What does that mean then? America we know is not there. What that mean? The Russians going to take it, the Chinese going to no. Just think about it. This happened 100 years ago. If you was in New York City in 1900, there was 1 million horses in New York City. 1 million horses. By 1920, horses was banned from the city. Think about all the people that lost their jobs. Think about all the people that built the saddles and the wagons and cleaned up after the horses and fed the horses. All of those people lost their jobs. But to the people of the 1920s, it was a glorious age. Their parents wasn't too happy. But the kids thought it was wonderful. This is what we're going through right now. We may not be too happy in this new world of 2025, 2030, because we might be dinosaurs by then. I feel like I'm a dinosaur now. Okay. But our kids are going to live. They're going to love this world. Okay. They're already loving it now. Everything, you should listen to the way these kids are talking. The way they can operate computers and doing this and that. And they've got all these schemes about making money. And they're doing all this stuff online and whatever. And we can barely send a text. Okay. We are dinosaurs. And just like those parents of those people that lost their jobs when the horses was banned from New York City, the kids thought it was a wonderful age of the automobile. And they saw New York City change overnight from a city of 1 million horses to a city full of cars. And they thought it was beautiful. And we're going to see America change from a world from being an analog world to this high-tech, digital, futuristic world over the next 10, 20 years. Our kids are going to love it. We're not going to be too happy. Because we ain't going to know how to function anything. We're going to have to tell our kids, can you turn the, I need to see something on TV. Oh, TV's on my watch now? How do I get TV on my watch? Okay. This technology we're not keeping up with. But it's not our world, it's their world. We have to make the world better for them. This is what people used to think about. I want the world better for my kids. Now people say, the hell with my kids. I want everything for me. And my grandfather was a coal miner, and my daddy was a coal miner, and I was a coal miner, and I want my grandkids to be coal miners. Okay. The hell with this future. I want my kids to be in a coal mine. Okay. Is that the attitude we're going to face going towards the future? And is the whole world going to stop because some people don't want to go into the future? Okay, we got to stop the future because those people over there, they want to stay using coal. So we're going to stop the future. We're not going to move forward because those people over there want to stay in coal. So we're just going to... We already have some of those people. They're called Amish. You know what I'm saying? Okay. The world turned and the Amish didn't want to turn. They went straight. You get my point? And when I was in Ohio, we used to go to the Amish and those other people on the weekend and buy their eggs and their honey and this and that and whatever, okay? And they had their little bonnets and their long dresses on and whatever. But it was a great little trip to go out there and visit them and buy their food, okay? But we didn't want to be like them. Okay. Is that what people are going to do to us 20, 30 years from now? They're going to go, oh, let's go and visit those backward people over there. Okay. In America. Okay. We have to change. We do not get a vote. And even though Lynn Livesey is not too happy about some of these changes, because Lynn Livesey feels like a dinosaur. And Lynn Livesey, I'm on my work, I'm competing with all, I'm 50, I'm 58 going on 50, I'm 60 years old now. I want to retire because on my job now, I'm the old man. Most of the people that work where I work are 18, 20, 22. They can do loop-de-loops around what I could do. But they don't have something I have. It's called common sense. Okay. So even though they're typing at 50,000 words a minute, this and that, can pull up all the sites and whatever, when people call in with their problems, Grandpa can solve their problems. You understand what I'm saying? I might be slow. It might take me 20 minutes and hold on a second. I got to pull up this. Okay, you get what I'm saying, don't you? But Grandpa has this. Those little kids today. Okay. That's how I'm competing. That's how you need to compete. So you need to be helping your kids with your Zoom and this and that and everything else. But we have to move forward. And we can't let these backward people that want to be America like Mayberry RFD of 1950. And these people want to destroy the entire country, willing to destroy the country to keep America Mayberry RFD. Are we going to destroy the greatest country in the history of this world over some, I want to say a bad word, over some bullshit? Okay. Because there's people in my town that don't look like me. And there are some people in my town that don't dress like me. And there's some people in that town that eat food different from me. So let's just blow it up. Let's just destroy and burn down everything. Okay. Is that how selfish and ignorant we are? And when the Soviet Union collapsed, I was awestruck. Because a lot of young people don't remember. I was raised during the Cold War. And when you told people you was from the USSR, oh my gosh. Oh my God, those are some bad mothers. You get what I'm saying, don't you? It got so bad by the mid-'80s. If you told a person you was from Russia, especially if you was a woman, they wanted to know how much you was selling it for. You get what I'm talking about? Okay. This is why Putin came to power. He wanted to restore the glory of Russia. Okay. Because Russia became the laughing stock of the world. It went from everyone in Europe being afraid of the Soviet Union to Russia, the Russia being the laughing stock of Europe. Okay. And Putin came to power. And if Putin has his way, he's going to remain in power for the next 40, 50 years. You get what I'm talking about? And that's what Trump was trying to do. Okay. You get what I'm saying? Now, Putin did a lot of good to restore Russia back up to what it was. He's not all the way back up to where the Soviet Union was. But him and his crony friends have taken advantage of the system. Okay. And they stick their hand in the jelly bean pot way too many times. And the average Russian is kind of hurting because they got their hand in the cookie jar too many times. You have to make it where the wealth of a country is spread out. And this is the problem of America in the last 10, 20 years. If you go to any major city, you can see the rich has become the super rich. And the poor has become the poor. So you got areas, not only in Detroit and Michigan and Houston and every major city, where it looks like a third world country now. And this is America. And don't even think about going to Florida or California. Oh my gosh, it's terrible. Florida got so many homeless. The only difference between, people talk about how bad it is in California. The only difference between California and Florida is in California, they don't hide the homeless. The homeless are out there for everybody to see. In Florida, they try to hide them. But the homeless in Florida is everywhere. They're everywhere. It's terrible. People's living in tents, living in houses, living in, oh my gosh, it's very bad. Florida is the land of either you are super rich or you're super nothing. We have to keep America, try to keep the middle class afloat in this country. We can't go to a two-tier society. But to do that, we have to keep society operational. We cannot destroy the country. And what Trump was telling people as they was raiding the Capitol is that if he can't, and if his people, and if their way of thinking cannot, if it can't be their way, then the hell with it, then burn it all down, destroy everything. Is that what we're going to do to this country? It's our country. It's our future. And if we do in America what happened to the Soviet Union, where America just collapsed into chaos and we're fighting and killing each other and shooting and people, the world is just going to sit back and laugh and giggle just like they did when the Soviet Union collapsed. Nobody cared. Nobody cared. And what happened in this when Russia collapsed? Everybody went over there and bought up everything for 10 cents on the dollar. You think we got problems now? If America collapsed, all the foreign countries just going to come in here and just buy everything up. And how is that going to be good for our kids? We have to keep this country intact. And politics is like football. Sometimes your team wins and sometimes they lose. You get what I'm saying? And when your team loses, you don't go and burn the stadium down because you know there's next year. You get what I'm saying, don't you? And next year, your team might win. Or that same quarterback that already won 10 Super Bowl rings, he might just get an 11th one. You never know. Okay, yeah. But you can keep that dream alive. This is what we always done in America. We vote for people. They lose. You get pissed off. But you say next go around, my team is going to win. And that's what we did when Hillary lost. And that's what we did when Al Gore lost. And that's what we did when Bush lost. And that's what we did when so many other people lost. Why this time we're going to burn everything down? And I don't think you called yourself a Proud Boy. And I never heard some of these radical people, while there was beating up policemen and everything in Washington, D.C., they would stop beating up the police and looting. And then they would stop and say a prayer. And then they would go back to beating people again. That's called insanity. Okay. And some of the police was talking about why they was getting beat up. People was talking about how they love you and how they support you, why they beat you. That's kind of crazy. Okay. If you support this country and if you believe in this country, then you have to defend this country. And you defend this country against all enemies, foreign and domestic. And I know some people are pissed off because their football team did not win the last Super Bowl. Okay. They were sure that their team was going to win. And Donald Trump fumbled the ball over this virus. And he ended up losing the election. I thought Trump was going to win too. Okay. I was hoping he wouldn't. But he fumbled the ball. And Biden got in. And damn it, I know people are upset, but remember, there's going to be, 4 years from now, we're going to have that game again, and maybe y'all can get in again. It's the game's been going on for 200 years. We don't need to burn the stadium down. We don't need to destroy the country. We don't need to do what South Africa did and launch nuclear missiles we're going to take our own nuclear missiles that we designed to blow up China and Russia and everywhere else, and we're going to use these missiles on our fellow American citizens. Do this make any damn sense? And we're going to blow up our own country? Are we that stupid? Are we that ignorant? Are we like those people in South Africa? Before we let those Mexicans and black take over, we'll just blow the country up. Okay. Are we that crazy? And I don't think the blacks and Mexicans are trying to take the country over. I just think we want our peace. A country is a pie. We had Black Lives Matters and this and that and whatever, but you don't see Black Lives Matters trying to take over General Motors or trying to take over Wall Street or trying to, trying to take over these hedge funds and whatever. We just want our piece of the pie. We're not trying to destroy the pie. Okay. We just want our piece. Some people don't think we deserve a piece. They just think we deserve crumbs. We're not getting no crumbs. We want a piece. But we want to leave the pie. This is why we've been, the first slaves were brought to America in the 1670s. The first slave rebellion was in 1690. There have been hundreds of slave rebellions since then. We've been fighting ever since. Not to destroy this country, because we want a piece of the pie. That's all we're asking for. And all these people from south of the border that's coming in, they're not trying to take over. You don't see Mexicans and Hondurans attacking Wall Street or trying to take over Tesla or General Motors or whatever. They're happy to work for us. They're happy to cut off the chicken heads and to do the little small jobs. They're happy to cut your grass and paint your house. They just want a little piece. Is this so hard to understand? And if people so selfish that they say, hey, if I can't have 100% of the pie, I'm just going to throw the whole pie away because I'm not sharing it. It's my pie, and I'm not giving a piece to nobody. I'm a spoiled brat kid. I'm keeping all the pieces to myself. I'll blow the whole pie up before I give anyone a piece. I guess you got to blow it up then. I guess this might be the end. It's up to us to choose. But the rich in this country have always controlled everything in this country. All we want is a little peace. And they can have peace and harmony. And they can keep their house in the Hamptons. And they can keep their $500 million yachts. And they can keep everything else. We're not after that stuff. We wouldn't know what to do with it if we had it. Okay. Just give us our little peace. Just give us our little, we just want a livable wage. You know what I'm saying? Okay. That's all we want. We want a place so our kids can get a decent job, and we can raise our babies and have a little fun on the weekend. That's all we want. Okay, see what I'm saying? And if we can do this as Americans, and we can do this as a country, as a world, as the human race, then maybe we can survive to get to the future. And just like how New York City switched from 1900 to 1920, maybe once we get to 2030 and 2035, and we're living in this George Jetson future that Lynn Livesey's not going to be too happy about, because I'm going to be a dinosaur, not know how to do anything. Okay, but it's not going to be my future. It's going to be those kids' future. And as long as I got my little Social Security and my little check, and I got my little, as long as I get me a little taco in the morning and and my little dinner at night, whatever, I'm happy. I had mine. I had my shot. You know what I'm saying? Let them have theirs. So this is the moral of the story. Over the next few weeks, a lot of bad things are going to happen. But we are in control. And we have to make the decision. Are we going to, America has changed. It is not let's go back to Mayberry RFD. Those days are gone forever. They will never come back. We have to head towards the future. The future is a multi-ethnic, multi-racial, multi-everything society. And in the future, people are going to be crossing borders, countries like they're crossing states today. Okay. In the future, people are going to live in London and work in New York City. They're going to be living in China and working in LA. Okay. We have the technology to do that now if we wanted to. We had the technology to do that 20 years ago. Did you know that? They had the blueprints to build trains across the, across the ocean. They was thinking about doing that 20 years ago across the Atlantic. They was going to put underground trains that could move several hundred miles an hour. Do you know why they didn't do it? For the same reason it took 200 years for the English to build the Eurotunnel to England. Because for 200 years, the British was afraid that if there was a tunnel, that the people of Europe would invade and take over. It's that paranoia. And now that they got the Eurotunnel, it took them 200 years to build that thing. Nobody's invading. It's just making trade with Europe easier. Now you don't have to go by boat. You can take a train or go by truck. You get what I'm saying? But for 200 years, England was afraid that if it was a tunnel between England and Europe, that Europe would invade and take over the country. That's why we didn't build all those tunnels between America and Europe. Because if there was tunnels, all those people from Europe would rush over and take over America. Oh my gosh, we got to keep those people out. Oh my gosh. Okay. Please. Get a life. We're all God's children. We're all made in His image. We all have to become one. We have to become the human race. Because when we leave this blue marble, as I said before, we will not leave here as Americans and Russians and Chinese. We will leave this blue marble as human beings. Nothing else. Okay. Period. Game's over, man. Game's over. You get what I'm saying? And we have to start thinking that way now. So, we're out of time, but I'm warning you. Over the next few weeks, you're going to see and hear of a lot of ugly stuff. You are one person, and we all have to decide. do we want to cross over to this new future or not? If the people of New York had a vote and they said, are we keeping the horses or crossing over to the cars, they would have burnt all the cars down and say, we're keeping the horses. You get what I'm saying? That's why they didn't get a vote. You get what I'm talking about? Because they needed to switch over. We need to switch over to this futuristic world that we was promised. We are not getting a vote. And we can't let the dinosaurs keep us and our kids away from this, from our future that we've been promised. Okay. The dinosaurs need to retire and let the kids cross over into the promised land. You heard it from me first. I'm Lynn David Livesey, your full spectrum Gnostic. I hope you enjoyed what I had to say. It's a lot of deep thinking, but I'll be here tomorrow on the Spirit Room Network and we'll talk to metaphysical. I'm here every Tuesday and Thursday. Thanks for joining me. I'm out of here. Bye.